Well, switching gears to politics, we know for the next 2 years, the Republicans will control both the White House and both chambers of Congress. This week could be a major win for now President Trump, as we hear from our very own Rebecca Castor.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
President Donald Trump starting his second term with a flurry of executive orders. But to enact most of his agenda, the president will need help from Congress.
We've got a plan pretty well formulated now.
GOP leadership met with Trump Tuesday at the White House to map out their strategy for getting the president's campaign promises through Congress.
Secure the border, lower energy costs, get stable tax policy, the stave off a tax increase. All of those things we want to do, one bill's the best path.
It's unclear when that bill could be voted on, but today Congress is expected to pass the first piece of legislation of Trump's second term, the Laken Riley Act, named after a Georgia nursing student murdered last year by an undocumented migrant.
It's going to pass overwhelmingly, and it was needed.
The bill requires federal authorities to detain migrants accused of theft and violent crimes.
I think people should be convicted. I don't think we should do potentially very harmful things to someone just because they've been accused of something.
Meanwhile, the Senate is also busy working to confirm Trump's cabinet nominees, but Republicans are frustrated with Democrats delaying some votes.
Do we want to vote on these folks on Tuesday or vote on them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? Because that's what we're going to do. This can be easy or this can be hard.
So far, new Secretary of State Marco Rubio is the only cabinet member to be confirmed. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
All right. Joining us now to discuss all things with regard to politics is Mr. Jonathan Harris back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Good to see you, Jonathan. Happy Wednesday.
Good to see you.
Let's jump in with regard to the top story of the day. We are getting word just about an hour or two ago that now President Trump may very well invite not one, not two, but three members that took part and were eventually pardoned in the January 6th storming of the U.S. Capitol. That invite to the White House. Your response to that, sir?
You know, it's a sad, kind of disturbing sign that Donald Trump has learned nothing. Absolutely nothing. You saw him politicizing the fires in California, which means he learned nothing about politicizing tragedy like he did with the COVID pandemic. And you see this given time and time again an opportunity. He was called out by the press yesterday for claiming to back the blue, claiming to support police officers, but then pardoning people who attacked police officers that we all saw with our own eyes on January 6th. And it's, you know, again, Donald Trump, every single time he has an opportunity to rise to the office, does not. He lowers the office down to his level, which is petty and childish and needs to have an ego stroke. He is playing to his base, and his base is not the majority of the American people. Look, he had this is a child level quiz. You don't support people who committed a terrorist attack against our nation. It's really not that complicated. He led the insurrection. He led the terrorist attack against our nation. And time again, he's been given an opportunity to say, hey, you know, this was a mistake. But here we go again, you know, doubling down and playing to his base.
Jonathan, one of the officers that happened to be attacked just spoke out moments ago as well, stating that he is completely disappointed. Not only that, but offended, stating that several of those who have now been released from prison pleaded guilty to actually attacking him, using a taser on him. And he's stating in so many words that the rule of law in America is now gone.
Yeah, I believe he said he felt betrayed by his country. And you know, at some point or another, you know, the majority of the country, the rest of the country gets it. But you wonder why his base can't call him out on this. His base can't say, hey, how do you back the blue, but then support freeing people who attacked police officers? But then you have Donald Trump, who is a convicted felon. He's a criminal himself. So maybe he sides with criminals over our law enforcement. I mean, having a convicted criminal, be able to pardon people is unprecedented. It's never happened in the history of our country before. And it's a sad kind of devolving of the office from Donald Trump.
Let's move on to immigration. We know that refugees who were slated to travel to the U.S. after a years-long and often cumbersome process have had their flights canceled. Your response to this?
You know, I was doing some research on this. I was looking into it, and according to a report from the AP. I don't want to make sure I have this correct. These are people who have already gone through the process, and this is a process that actually at times takes years. So these are people that have already gone through the process. This includes 1,600 Afghans who assisted us in our war efforts, and as well as relatives of active duty military. That he's getting caught up in this. And it reminds me very often, Donald Trump is very often accused of being a racist. They cite his history with not letting black tenants live in his buildings, how he was sued for that, going after 5 innocent black men who were innocent of the crime he tried to get them the death penalty over, et cetera, et cetera. A member of his administration, Elon Musk, throwing up a Hail Hitler salute, a Nazi salute, twice. And every time he's called out on this, he says he's got some kind of excuse. But this plays right into it. What is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of holding up 1,600 Afghans who assisted us in our war efforts? Is that what anybody, is that why people are struggling to pay their bills? Is that why people are having a hard time making ends meet? No, it feels very much in line with, an Elon Musk Nazi salute, and the fact that he has targeted, people must remember, not illegal immigrants, not just illegal immigrants, but he has targeted legal immigrants, the people living here in Springfield that he lied on. He wanted them deported as well, and they're here in this country legally. And that sadly lines up with a white supremacist agenda that he keeps claiming that he's not a part of. It's a disappointment. It's sad. And these people had already gone through the process and were able to come to this country through something set up through President Biden. And to see him go after these people is disappointing, but not surprising.
Jonathan, we also know that the federal DEI employees, well, those that are a part of that, now going to be placed on administrative leave, effective immediately. That, by the way, according to the White House, which has also announced details of an executive order ending DEI considerations in federal hiring. Your response to that?
Sadly, it kind of plays into what I was just talking about. Like I said, Elon Musk throwing up the Hail Hitler salute, the Nazi salute. You don't have this much accidental racism, and nobody in this country was saying, it's those federal DEI programs that are making it hard for me to get into college, that are making it hard for me to pay my bills, that are making so-called eggs more expensive and groceries more expensive. This is a first 100 days priority for this administration to go after. They stopped saying CRT, critical race theory, over and over and over again. And they got 3 new letters in their teeth, which is DEI. But DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is really just meant to counter the history of racism in this country that nobody even denies has existed. That's what these programs are for, and to dismantle them, period. But to make this a first 100 days, first couple of days initiative is just sad. And again, it leans into why people constantly bring up Donald Trump's history of racism, and that's one of his actual priorities in his administration going forward, to dismantle a program that is designed to counter racism. From a person who was endorsed by the KKK. I mean, that's a lot of smoke, but he's saying there's no fire.
Yesterday, we aired a portion of the prayer service right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, to which we hope you got a chance to see, during which we know that the president attended along with his family and the vice president and his family. President Trump now demanding an apology from the bishop who urged mercy for immigrants in the LGBTQ community during that prayer service yesterday. The question is an apology needed?
No, of course not. I remember I interviewed, she's an activist. Her name is Jane Elliott. She's been on Oprah's show a lot and on Oprah's network. And she did the brown-eyed, blue-eyed experiment, with that kind of notorious experiment where, she gave one group of children privileges and another group of children didn't give them privileges, and analyzed how they behaved. And one of the things she said to me about Donald Trump, as an educator, because she taught children, she said, Donald Trump is a child. She said he is stuck in a childhood ego state. She's like, that is exactly how children are. When they are called out, when they are held to task, they don't take any responsibility, and they lash out and they blame other people. This is a woman who is essentially saying there are vulnerable communities in this country. You represent the entire country. make sure that you keep that in mind when you are navigating this office. And the idea that he couldn't say, you know, thank you for that, but because he was embarrassed and it was awkward, he's demanding an apology. You know, I watched that and I was a little concerned that we have reached a level in this country where Donald Trump works for us. He's not a king. He doesn't issue edicts. He's essentially our employee, and we don't need to beg for mercy from our employee. But the fact that we've reached a place where someone can say, hey, please, you know, don't go after these vulnerable communities. And instead of him taking that and going, again, trying to rise to the occasion and say, you know what, let me listen to what she had to say. He's demanding an apology, for someone asking you not to target people who are already targeted with violence, already experiencing suicide and so on and so forth. Just a shameful, sad chapter in this administration already, 2-3 days in. Very unfortunate. And I hope she does not apologize.
We'll end with this, Jonathan, and that is Democratic Senator Tim Kaine in Virginia now encouraging his colleagues not to rush the confirmation of Pete Hegseth following allegations from the former sister-in-law of the president, Donald Trump's pick, to lead the Pentagon of him being abusive. Yet again, another challenge for Mr. Hegseth.
Well, you know, I hope that Donald Trump understands that this is another pick of his that is running into controversy. You know, Donald Trump and him are so concerned about DEI. It seems to be their number one concern. But what they need to be concerned with is these people who are not qualified. We must remember that Pete Hegseth would be replacing a 4-star general who had over 4 decades of service. And was also the first black general to hold this position. And Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are constantly talking about DEI. You have Donald Trump as the first convicted felon to hold the presidency, and Pete Hegseth, who had to pay to settle, he already paid to settle a lawsuit for sexual assault. Donald Trump being held liable in a court of law for sexually assaulting a woman. It's not DEI that's the problem. It's these people who are not qualified to hold these offices and who have troubled checkered pasts of their own, trying to use DEI and the people who would benefit from it as something to throw under the bus to distract from the fact that they have a checkered past. And you would think that, you know, anybody, I think it was Matt Gaetz, stepped down on his own to kind of move past this. You would think that at a certain point, Pete Hegseth would say, hey, you know, why don't I'll just step down. I care about the military. I don't want this hanging over the military and hanging over me the entire time I would be in this position. Let me step down and have someone else hold this position that wouldn't have this hanging over them. But no, again, he might want to be less concerned about DEI and more concerned about his own past.
Jonathan Harris, yet again, Democratic strategist, joining us right here on the Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Sure thing. Thanks.
All right.